Okay, so a lot of question I'm getting asked is what do I do with the player roles? You know, what's the difference between a role plus plus and a role plus? Do these differences make any difference? What do I do if I can't find next player? Is it important to have? I'm going to go through all of this in today's video to hopefully clear some light. I got some of your questions that I've taken down, some of you guys that sent to me. So keep letting me know questions down below, and I'll be making these videos. I'll go through them. And the first one is, what do I do? Because there isn't that many role pluses and plus pluses, or two pluses, should I say. So the role plus plus, for example, Hernandez is a few players. By the way, you can go to foot.gg. I think they've got the best graphical version of this. You just go to players. And then if you go over to this section here, if I go, for example, to false back, I want to put both the left back and the right back for false back. So, and you can see there's only two players, in fact, and one in each position. And the question I'm getting asked is, well, what do I do if I can't obtain that? Now, to be honest, I don't think you have to worry about it too much, okay? Now, we're going to go over work rates, play styles, and how the roles, the movement is affected, because now that work rates are gone, but we'll get on to that in a second. Now, effectively speaking, you could argue someone with a role plus plus will be world class in that position. Okay, so if I had to give you an example of Hernandez, let's just say, for example, in this situation, let's just say, for example, this was Hernandez. Okay, let's just assume here Hernandez, and let's just say we want to put him on the right hand side, right? Now, effectively, if he's a false back, if he's a plus plus, he'll be world class in that role. So effectively, what he would do is that he would do equally both the transition and the movement more effectively. At the end of the day, EA would probably determine that. But for example, when you win possession of the ball, how quickly they will move in midfield when you have possession of the ball, and how quickly they will move back when you lose possession. I think that is more important, because when you have the ball, you can see them moving, but it's when you lose the ball in a transition, it's how quickly can they go back. So maybe you can argue, if you struggle defensively, you want to be prioritizing the role plus plus. But to be honest, there isn't that many players. So if you want my honest opinion, and people are saying, what do I do about these squad builders? I'm trying to build these squad builders. Well, you could just get the regular false back. So I'll do the false back plus here. And you can see just a left back. And if I go to the right back false back, I'm just going to do the right back. I'm just going to do a regular false back. And don't forget, there's other options as well. You don't have to just do, of course, the thing. But anyway, if I go right back false, I'm just going to remove this one for a second. Now you can see just on the right back perspective, there's actually so many much more right backs. For example, one player that I'd recommend is Kadioglu. So if you want to try some of these players, try them with just a role plus and maybe try a regular version. I would say, especially when you're building that starter team, don't worry too much about trying to get the role plus pluses, because you're going to try a player, you might not like it. And to be honest, I'll go over how a player will perform out of role plus, but I suspect EA are keeping these for team of the weeks, evolutions, promotions, and that is why. So when you're trying to build that early team, I would say if you want to try position out, like for example the false back, then maybe just try to get the false back plus variation. Even if you can have to play a playoff chemistry. So one thing I want to suggest is, let's say for example, theoretically you go and you look for a player, and let's say, I don't know, you're looking for a ball playing centre back. Now I know Virgil van Dijk is one of the best players, but let's say for example, for some reason you couldn't get him into your team. You could always get someone like Mappy Leon. I know she's a bit pricey because she's 89 rated, but as an example, you could get Bastoni, for example. It might be pricey because the league is in and everything, but what you could do then is then you can sub the player on. Don't worry about the chemistry too much. Don't forget, chemistry doesn't affect the role. Chemistry just affects the player's stats boost. So if you put a 99 rated player, for example, hypothetically in that position, they're still going to make that role be very, very well. So that would be a good way of testing those roles, is kind of subbing a player on. So if you really want to try a role, like for example, I know when a game comes out, I've done some testing and I know that I want to realistically try the sweeper keeper, because with a sweeper keeper, they go to the halfway line. So what I could do, for example, I could purchase, for example, Enla, which won't be as expensive as Edison, for example, and I can use her in the game. So these are just different variations that you could do instead. Now, one of the question I got asked a lot was building early team. Yeah, so don't worry about it too much. If you want, try to get a role plus. You really want a role plus plus, just buy a player and sub that player on. Now, people are saying, okay, what if the player doesn't have a role? Now, to be honest, I'm going to be completely honest. I think from a defensive standpoint, try to get your back four, as I mentioned, and your CDMs. Try to get these players at least a role plus. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but I'd recommend them to at least be in position, okay? it doesn't matter too much. I think people are overlooking roles. Yes, they have that movement, but if you have the ability to press the L1, the R1 button, you can trigger those players manually yourself. So don't fear too much. Oh no, does that mean my players are going to be really poor on the ball? That will not be the case. There's so many role plus, like if I go here to a sweeper keeper, you can see, go back here, it's going to get rid of the one with the roll plus plus. You can see there's actually so many variations and so many different players. So you don't have to even sub them on. You can just buy them like so. Now, the thing is, what's the difference? So effectively, as I said, someone who's got roll plus plus will effectively play that role more proficiently. EA could change this when the game officially comes out on the 20th. So from what we've played already, I played the press release and I played the beta, but it could be completely different. Who knows? At the end of the day, EA are the ones that decide that. Now, the thing people are saying to me is, okay, but what about work rates? Okay, they're saying, okay, what if, for example, a center mid is box to box? I want to give you an example, right? Like Rubinson, for example. I really want to get her because she's very, very good. She's got the holding CDM. But what if she's a box to box player? Now, because historically, what would happen is in previous years, for example, you would have someone. So I'm just going to choose someone else here. Let's just say, for example, Aitana. I'm going to show you generations. If we look at it from last year, she had basically, I don't even know where the work rate is gone, but she had work rates basically, I think it was like high, medium, whatever it was, right? Those work rates have now gone. So effectively, how a player will move up and down the pitch will be kind of caused by roll pluses and roll plus pluses. So I think if you're looking for those box to box players, that is where you really want to go for the roll plus pluses. And again, the way you would do it is you go here to players, and you can choose, for example, there's other different ones, like let's say roll box to box, right? There's only a few players, but for example, if you really wanted to use Damaris, you can use her. But again, it's the argument weighted. Like, would I want someone who's got 60 sprint speed to be playing a roll plus plus as opposed to a center mid who's a roll plus over 80 sprint speed? I would probably still want the person with the sprint speed, because at the end of the day, when you're running back manually, not using the rolls, you're controlling that player. You need the pace to recover, and maybe you can trigger that player yourself and you can pass the ball. So you have to get that balance right. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't worry about prioritizing it too much. Remember, we know it's only 40% of the movement. It's still things like, for example, defensive awareness, for example, when they track back, and going forward, it'll probably be attack positioning. So don't worry about that too much. But I do think there's actually many effective role plus, as I said, like the sweeper keeper, the false back. Check out my video uploaded a few days ago in regards to that. That will be just basically the general gist on the role plus and the role plus pluses, especially building that starter team. As I said, just try one or two players. You know, this is the best time to try players out. You know, you're not playing foot champions, but at least get ready for it. We know foot champions going to get hard as well. So this is a good time to experiment. And thankfully, we all start in Division 7. So at least you have some time to experiment while everyone just speeds ahead. You can just take your time a little bit, see how things are. And live foot friendlies, there's no skill-based matchmaking in live foot friendlies. So if you want to buy a 60 pace player who's got the box to box plus plus, buy her and use her live foot friendlies and you won't lose anything, or even squad battles. But that would be my advice in regards to that. But if you want to see more content like this, you can come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/NilGuys. Links down below in the description. If you don't get buffed for 1 month, we'll refund your money. That's a Nil Guys guarantee. But we go over, for example, how each role works, what each position does, what each focus does. Because don't forget also, within roles, there's also focuses. So, for example, if we go, for example, like to Mbappe, and then we can see, for example, is advanced forward. There's also different focuses. There's the complete advanced forward, there's the attack advanced forward, and there's different focuses for each position. But we've gone through that. And of course, we started FC School already, going over meta players and minimum players and meta squad. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, guys.